Thank you. Welcome to everyone, and welcome to this lecture, which is one of the messages of the most important to humanity, and in particular to the people of Israel. Over 36 years ago, I came across a message that changed my life. I was born in Morocco from a Sephardic Jewish traditional family, and since my childhood, I always had questions, but never got the right answers. And when I saw this book that changed my life, it was written, the book which tells the truth. And as a Jew, you're not going to tell me what's the truth because we know it. So I refused to read it until one day I saw on television, I saw a video talking about the messages of the Elohim, and immediately it answered all the questions I had since my childhood. But I haven't read the book yet. And one day, I was watching television. All of a sudden, it was a university teacher of religion at the University of Montreal. It was his name and the phone number. So I picked up the phone, tried to get an appointment with this man, and called a guy that was Michel Belluyer, that many of you knew, probably, a Canadian guide. And they asked him to come with me because I didn't know a clue about the message, and I started spreading it even if I didn't know much about it. And when we entered this room where the professor was, I started talking about the messages, and I told him, listen, what you're telling on television about the prophets of Israel is not right. The prophet of Israel have been sent by the Elohim and so on. Stop, please. That's over 40 years I am teaching religion. I am going on retirement next month, so I don't want to hear about it. So I said, well, too bad. And when I went out, I asked Michel if he had the books of the messages, and this is the book that changed my life. As a Jew, I feel the urge, after reading it, to spread the messages among my community. And since then, I didn't stop. And I will never stop. Because this is the most important message, not only to humanity, but to the people of Israel in particular. Let me tell you the story about this message. On December 13, 1973, there was a man in France, in the center of France, driving to his work. And all of a sudden, he felt the urge to go another way to an old volcano called the Puy de la Sola, close to Clermont-Ferrand in France, where he was going on picnic with his family during summertime. It was on December 13, he had work to do. He arrived at the center of the volcano, and he asked himself, what I'm doing here is cold, and I have work to do. I should be in my office right now. So he was going to leave, while all of a sudden, he saw something shining in the skies. Two lights, a beam above and one below, but no noise. He thought it was an helicopter, but there was no noise at all. And finally, he realized it was a spaceship. He got a little bit afraid when he saw this spaceship having a ladder opening and 2 feet coming down. So I said, I don't want to move. Probably they will think I am a tree or something and they will leave. Then he saw a man coming down. He thought it was a child because he was about 1.30 meters. And this man came directly to him. And he was not afraid at all because this human being, this extraterrestrial being, had no weapons. His face was shiny, full of love, full of harmony. And he came close to him. Then Claude Vorillon asked him, do you speak French? And the extraterrestrial replied, I speak all languages in the world. Then Claude Vorillon asked him, do you come here often? Then he replied, I come here many times. And today, I come to meet with you. Your name is Claude Vorillon. You are married. You have 2 children. You have a car magazine. Your passion is sport cars. And we telepathically induce you to come here today because we have a message for you. For me? Yes, for you. We have been following you since you were born and even before. He invited him into his craft and told him, we also telepathically induce to buy a Bible from La Pléiade, which is the only French Bible where the word God was not mistranslated by God. Then he invited him into his craft and he gave him the following message. Over 25,000 years ago, we came to our planet and we start creating all lives thanks to DNA. Through the ages, we have sent many prophets. Among the most important ones, Moses, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, and many others, as we have sent over 40 to the people of Israel. Since August 6, 1945, we feel the urge to send the last messenger because the explosion on Hiroshima with the atomic bomb, you can now progress or auto-destruct yourselves. It's about time people will start understanding we have created you all equal. And we have reached a time which is called apocalypse, which is a Greek word, doesn't mean destruction, which means revelation. If you look in any dictionary, that's the real translation. After sending all these prophets, we have made them, they made religions, and this is now the time that stop believing. And now we're going to ask you 2 things. First of all, we're going to change your name to Ra'el, which is the root of the word Israel. We're going to ask you to spread this message worldwide and to build us the 3rd temple, which is an embassy where we will come, preferably close to Jerusalem, among our descendants who are the Jewish people, descendant from the son of Elohim and woman of the earth. He heard that. They met with him during 6 days, and they gave him this book, which is called now Intelligent Design. At the time, it was the book which tells the truth. And this book was a revelation. Millions of people have read this book worldwide. It's translated in all languages, and you can download it for free on our website, rael.org, in the language of your choice, of course. Being Jew, I have tried to spread the message among my community, which is particular, the first book, which is the book which tells the truth, with citation of the original Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, and other Hebrew scripts. At the beginning, I did flyers. I went to the door of synagogues and start every Saturday spreading the messages and so and so and so. Wow, for me it was very easy that people, hoping everyone will understand because it was very clear. But anyways, it was not that clear for them. And, spit on me, insults, death threats and all that. But, this message is so powerful. It's like a light. When you see the sun, sometimes you cannot stand it. And this message is much stronger than the sun. Much stronger than any beam. Because what kind of luminosity can we stand? And what kind of truth can we stand? And I'm going to start with citations. I didn't make them. I brought them from the original Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, and many other citations that confirm without any doubt that the Elohim that we have been praying for ages are an extraterrestrial civilization. As simple as that. Now, let me start with these citations. Take notes of it. Go and look by yourself. Because I am not inventing anything. I'm not trying to give words or change anything. They're right there. So look at them by yourself and think about it. Think about it. Because until now, we just believe what we have been taught. And today, the Elohim are giving us the message of science, of love, of hope to humanity. And I wish it will enlighten your lives like it have enlightened mine. This is the man that got the message, to whom they give the name of Rael. He is the last of the prophets. And definitely, he is the long-awaited Mashiach. He is the Messiah the Jewish people have been waiting for since ages, since centuries. The one that was always announced as the Savior of Israel, as the Savior of humanity. And this man have been traveling and spreading this message of love, this message from the Elohim, for over 50 years now. I'm going to start with the citations. And here, at the beginning, in Bereshit 1:26, Vayomer Elohim naaseh adam betzalmenu kidmutenu. And Elohim say, let us make man in our image after our likeness. To our, not to my image. Which means here, if Elohim was a unique God, with whom he was talking to say to our image after our likeness. If we would have been alone, he would have said, I will make man in my image after my likeness. It's a matter of interpretation. At the beginning, our primitive ancestors took everything that was coming from the skies as divine. They had no clue, no understanding. They didn't know what was a bicycle or even a wheel to understand that someone that was coming from space, a spaceship, someone with a civilization of over 25,000 years above us. More than us. So they thought everything was divine. Let's continue with these citations. In Bereshit 3:22, and Yahweh say, behold, the man has now become like one of us, not like myself. It would have been a unique God. To who was he talking to? This meant that they created man with science, with art, with love, and they start creating not the man, they start creating all plants, animals, and everything before creating man, about 13,000 years ago or 12,000 years ago. And in Bereshit 6:2, Genesis, and when the son of Elohim saw the daughter of man were good, beautiful, they took some from themselves of those who they choose. So this is what I just told you. The children of Elohim had intercourse with women of the earth, children of these creations they have made. And they had the famous people that are called the ones that are famous, that will be famous in the world. And you have many of them, among many prophets, and among you have Samson, you have Eliyahu Navi, the prophet, you have many others like Shaul, the kings of Israel, some of them, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. And here, well, we're going to, in Genesis 6:4, which is Bereshit 6:4, the Nephilim come to the earth at that time, and also the union of the son of Elohim and daughter of man give strong children who become the men of renown. Now, the union between the son of Elohim and daughter of man, I ask them sometimes, who are these children of Elohim and daughter of man? You can ask yourself some questions. And they say the Nephilim. Nephilim in Hebrew comes from the word Naphol. Naphol, which means those who came down. And many of them think the word Nephilim here, Nephilim, are giants. They're not giants. Giants in Hebrew is Anakim. And Nephilim are those who fall down. Now, we can think about many ideas, and then we continue with Shemot 13:22. At the exit of Egypt, that, as you know, Moses took to lead the Jewish people out of Egypt, we have here, and Yahweh went before them by day in a pillar of cloud. What is a pillar of cloud? You have seen, probably, many spaceships sending to the space by NASA. You have seen on the television the big fire and the big cloud that comes from the exhaust. And then you can imagine this spaceship. That was the cloud they're talking about. And the pillar of fire give them the light. The pillar of fire are beams from this spaceship. And I can give you another citation, which I don't have here, but I have many. So when Moses met with Yahweh for the first time, and he saw the burning bush that was not burning, what was it according to you? Well, the same like they had a beam that led the Jewish people out of Egypt at night because they needed to work day and night. It was a beam that was over this bush. Like today, we all know we can have fireplace without electric fireplace, that you see bushes, not the bushes, you can see wood burning, and you think they're burning, but nothing burns. It's just a light, it's just an illusion. And they misunderstood that because they had no technology, they had no electricity at all. And then this was the story of the burning bush. And Yahweh said to Moses, I will come to you in a thick cloud. There have been many witnessing of UFOs with a thick cloud, a shiny cloud, and many others like that. And you can, please, take note of these citations and think by yourself. Think by yourself, because we have been taught but what our fathers taught us. As a Jews, we have been to synagogues, observing Jewish tradition. We were even praying without knowing what we were saying. Because when I was a child, I didn't learn Hebrew. I didn't understood what Hebrew was. The language, the Hebrew language, I didn't know about it until I moved to Israel and I learned Hebrew. But we were praying like many people were praying in Latin without understanding a clue. And that was, I have all the prayers in my head and I can tell you anything. Unfortunately, I didn't understood, but there was something in my mind telling me something here is wrong. And finally, I discovered the truth. And here in Shemot 24, 16, 17, and 18, and the glory of Yahweh dwelt upon Sinai, covering it with a cloud 6 days. And the seventh day he called him from the midst of the cloud, and the glory of Yahweh was like a burning fire. Once again, you have the example of all these spaceships that are sent to the space by NASA, and you can see the fire of the exhaust and the big thick cloud that is made from the exhaust. And now something very interesting, and that was in the eyes of the children of Israel, in front of everyone. Then Moses, entering into the might of the cloud, went up into the mountain. So he took him from one mountain and put him on another one. So what was, the people just was seeing the cloud because of the fire of the exhaust. But they didn't see the engine. I believe at that time, the Elohim didn't have UFOs like today. They had probably spaceship like the ones we sent today from NASA to space. So he entered the cloud, the supposedly cloud, and he took him from one place, from one mountain, and deposited him on another mountain. Here you have a beautiful on Yechezkiel 1 to 28, from 1:1 to 1:28. Here you have Ezekiel 1:1 to 1:28. Is exactly a description of landing of a spaceship. And what's most important and most amazing of it is that this, they read it on the first day of Shavuot. With the Shavuot is a Jewish celebration, which is the date Yahweh gave Moses the Ten Commandments. And this exactly, when you read it, is exactly the landing of a spaceship. So it's very long, but I mean, you can read it by yourself. Here, Job in Hebrew, 37, 15, 6, and 16. Do you understand the law that Eloha, who is the singular of the word Elohim? So if Eloha is a singular, Elohim definitely is a plural. Do you understand the law that Eloha imposes on them and how he makes his bright cloud shine? What is a bright cloud that shines? Do you understand the display of this cloud and wonder of him who has the perfect knowledge? What that means? They always describe something that was shining, a cloud. And out of this subject, we can think of the description of El Borak, where Muhammad traveled from the Mecca to Medina, from Medina to Jerusalem in a couple of minutes. And then he went to the seventh skies, or what they call it, with the angel Gabriel. And El Borak, it's coming from the Hebrew word, mavrik, which means something shiny. And in English, many people who are bright, they call him, he's a maverick person. So this is something we should start now opening our mind, thinking by ourselves. Stop believing. It's time now we understand. It's time we understand the truth, because this could save humanity or destroy humanity if we continue. In Zechariah 5, 1, 2, and 3, I looked up again and saw a scroll flying. A scroll. Megillah in Hebrew is a scroll that was flying. And Yahweh told him, do you see? I answered, yes, I see a scroll flying. His length is 20 cubits, and his breadth is then 10 cubits, which means the cubic was the measure of the elbow, which is exactly 63.6 centimeters. So it means that this flying saucer, or this Megillah, this cylinder that was flying, was measuring 12.71 meters long by 6 meters 36 wide. What that could be. And I am not inventing anything. You can go and check by yourself. Please, here. I'm bringing this from citations from the original Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh. And these citations, without the slight doubt, confirm the Elohim are our creators that have been taken by gods, and they are the ones that come from the space and created us and created all life on earth over 25,000 years ago. So think about it. And we the Jewish people have the privilege to understand because we have it in our scripts. We have it in our original Bible. We have it in many of our books that describe these human beings that come to earth and created life with a lot of love. Science, technology, genetic manipulations of DNA. Let's continue. No, Genesis 6:17 in Bereshit. I'm going to bring flood water to earth and destroy all flesh. That, you know what the flood was at the time of Noah. So, according to the description we had, he built a ship, a boat, I don't know what, to bring 7 animals of each, or 2, depending on what kind of animals. Now, what we need to understand today, even the biggest ship that we have now cannot contain so many animals, food, people, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. So what happened exactly during the flood? The Elohim took Noah on a spaceship. In a small box, they put a cell of each animal they wanted to recreate. And they recreated them through cloning because they have the technology. A technology that could not be understood by anyone at that time. Because, and there is something here very, very important, which is meant, before that, okay. And here in Hebrew say, when the flood came, the teva, metaram teva me'al haaretz in Hebrew, which means, and the ark went above earth. Some people tell you, well, it went above earth because of the water, the water was so strong that it lifted up the ark. With so many animals, something that was made of wood. Here you have, Vetaram ateva me'al haaretz, and the water lifted up the ark above earth. So it was a spaceship and not just a box of wood. Here in Exodus 36:11, Shemot 11:33, and Yahweh spoke to Moses face to face as a man speaks to his friend. So if a man talks to his friend face to face, he is not a God anymore. And if they made that to their image, after their likeness, like it's described in Bereshit, in Genesis, this means it all. If they made us to their image, it means these beings are human. Human like us. In Exodus, Shemot 3:15 or 15:3, Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. If Yahweh is a man, he's not a God. If he needs to make a war, how come a God that created all lives and everything we have surrounding us in 6 days and relax on the 7th day, he needs to make war? What kind of God is that? Yahweh leads the army, review the army of the battle. So Yahweh, who is a God, supposedly God, he needs an army. He needs the army, and he's reviewing the army before the fight. A God needs an army now. Here, very interesting citation. Oracle against Egypt. Behold, Yahweh rides on the swift cloud and goes to Egypt. Yahweh, who is a God, supposedly God, that is everywhere, is immaterial. He cannot have a body. He doesn't have any form, according to Rambam, which is one of the greatest philosophers of Judaism. Needs to ride on a cloud, on a fast cloud to go to Egypt. I mean, people were ignorant, but they were not stupid. They know a cloud goes slow. And this cloud of Yahweh was a fast cloud, a light cloud. So he ride the fast cloud to go to Egypt. A God needs to go to Egypt if he's everywhere? It's written there. Take the sentence, read it, and ask your rabbi what that means. He will certainly tell you a story, because their goal and their role is to keep everyone inside the bag very well tied. Because the roots, as we know, we are one with the entire community. And if someone gets out of there, it bothers the whole system. And since I have been lecturing on these citations, I have been inviting many members of the Jewish communities, and they always have a pause. They brought buses in front of the halls, hotels, to avoid people to go there. I remember maybe Sephora was there when we had a lecture in Antwerpen, Anvers, and religious people, they came to take people out of the hall, not to listen. And I was telling them, please, I have no knowledge according to you. You have learned in Hebrew schools. You spend your all day and your life reading books. Please come and make me feel stupid in front of everyone instead of hiding, instead of running away. Why don't you come? And the reason why they don't come is because these citations that I am bringing come from the original Hebrew Bible and from many Hebrew books. And they are irrefutable. They can't prove the opposite of what is written. So, and that's the main reason they prefer to avoid instead of coming and fighting me. That's their main problem. Now, let's continue, because this is getting more and more interesting. The great Yahweh on Tehillim 395.3. Great is Yahweh, the great king of all the Elohim. So how many Elohim they are? If you're telling me Elohim is singular, and now he is the great of all the Elohim, how many Elohim they are? It means there are many. Already the word Elohim is a plural. Let's continue. Isaiah 6:8. I heard the voice of my Lord say, who shall I send and who shall go for us? And this is when they found the urge to send prophets, to talk for them, to announce who were the Elohim. Here, on Shemuel 4:8, Samuel is one of the prophets of Israel. And here he say, mishap to us, say the Philistine, where the Palestinians took the name upon them, but they were not Palestinian. The Philistine was a tribe that was always fighting in the same area of these killer people between Israel and the Philistine and the others that were always at war. They say, who shall save us out of the Elohim of this fearful Elohim? And it's in Hebrew is much more powerful. Miyat silenu, miyad ha-Elohim hadirim. Who will save us from the hand of this Elohim who are so powerful? Two words in the plural, both of them. Elohim and powerful is in plural in Hebrew. Hadirim. So you see the Yud and Mem at the end. Im in Hebrew means plural. There is no doubt. But they say Elohim is a God. So much for that. Now, behold, they are the Elohim who took the Egyptian with all the plagues in the wilderness. You know that before the Elohim could be led out of Egypt by Moses, the Elohim have sent many plagues to Egypt. Technology, animals. The water became blood. They had many problems. The firstborn on any family dropped dead. So they didn't want to listen, and every time they got punished for that. Like, I don't want to hurt you, but this is exactly what happened to the people of Israel. Every time a prophet was sent, with all the prophets, they were imprisoned or killed because they were bringing the same message that Israel is bringing today to humanity and to the people of Israel. They were killed or jailed. All the prophets. Why? Because they disturbed the establishment. And that's the main reason. And this is why Yahweh say, the Jewish people who are my children are the people with a stiff neck. The more they get hurt, the more they continue without understanding. The more they continue to pray without understanding. They prefer to believe. And Rael met with a rabbi once in Miami. And the rabbi, Rael asked him, if the Moses come today and tell you what Rael is telling you is the truth, will you believe Moses or the book? He said, no, the book. It's like Jesus today. If he come to the Vatican, or they will call an ambulance to put him in psychiatric hospital and say, he believes Jesus, this idiot. So he must be sick. People have their position, they have the power, they don't want to give up. But sooner or later, they will have to give up. Because between now and 2035, the Elohim will come. And we will welcome them, with or without the people of Israel. We are here to welcome them. Because the chosen people who have been the Jews, today, it's over. They don't deserve that title anymore. And only those who recognize the Elohim as our extraterrestrial creators are the real chosen people and the people of Israel, because they are the people of Israel today. Who is the last messenger of the Elohim? Who is the long-awaited Mashiach. And he is the one that will lead and will rule over kings, over presidents, as he is the light of the Elohim on our planet. Now, let me continue with another citation, please. Ishaya. This is what I call the cherry on the sundae. Cherry on a sundae. We call it like that yeah? La cerise sur le gâteau, they call it. Here, in Isaiah 13:5. They come from a far country, from the end of the sky. Isn't clear enough? How do we call nowadays those who come from a far land, very far in the skies? How do we call them? Any answer? Someone know? How do we call them? Extraterrestrial. Wow, great. So, think about it. We are in the time of understanding. We have the technology. We have the science. We have manipulations, genetic manipulations of DNA. Today, we can understand. Here, they come from a far country at the end of the sky. And in top of that, they say Yahweh and his element of fury. It means Yahweh, who is supposedly God, he needs elements of fury to fight. Wow, what a God. As I have told you since the very beginning, this book is for you. And since 1948, the State of Israel was created for a reason. The main reason was to welcome the last Elohim messenger, who is the long-awaited Mashiach, and help him build the third temple. That's the main reason the State of Israel was created. They brought Jewish people from the east, from the west, from the north, and from the south. For that, only for that reason. And we can continue here with the message of the Mashiach to the people of Israel.
I have a message for the people of Israel in this very crucial and important moment of the history of the people of Israel. I am on this planet to save Israel and to save the Jewish people. I am the Messiah, and I bring a message from the Elohim. They asked me to build an embassy, which is the third temple, close to Jerusalem. Israel is still protected by the Elohim. But if the government refuses the authorization to build the third temple, the embassy of the Elohim, Israel will lose this protection from the Elohim. And it means that it will be destroyed. So, if you want to know exactly what is the message of the Elohim, who are the Elohim? Those who came from the sky a long time ago to create life on earth. Read this message. It is in Hebrew, and it explains exactly what is my mission. I would like to come to Israel, but I am not allowed to go to Israel by the Elohim as long as the authorization to build the third temple, the embassy to welcome them, is not given by the government, which refused 7 times. Now we are asking every country on this planet the authorization to build the embassy. And if the embassy is built somewhere else, then a last opportunity, a last chance will be given to Israeli government to accept the building of this embassy. If they refuse again, the protection of the Elohim will be lost. The very reason why the Israeli state does exist is because millions of Jewish people want to welcome Elohim. That's the goal, the reason of existence of Israel. And they want to come back now. If you refuse it, Israel has no reason to exist. The Messiah, long awaited, is here. It's me. And it's me who will build this embassy and to give the joy to millions of Jews in the world to welcome our creators from space, the Elohim. It's your choice to accept it, to refuse it.
It is very clear. I am here to save Israel and the Jewish people. Not only that, he have been sent to save the entire humanity. After all these citations from the original text, Hebrew Bibles, many other citations from other Hebrew books, read them, please, and wake up before it's too late for Israel. As you have heard, the protection of the Elohim have been drawn since 2015 now. Ehud Barak, who was Israel Prime Minister and one of the most big general of the Israeli army, mentioned recently the survival of Israel will not last over 80 years. And since 1948 until now, the State of Israel have already celebrated its 76th anniversary. 4 years left for the survival of the State of Israel. Now, it's a responsibility of all rabbis, of all members of the Israeli community, for the Israeli government, but is also your responsibility. It's your responsibility because each and every one of you will be accountable for the destruction of the State of Israel and the new diaspora. You know what that means? Many times there were diasporas in Israel, which is called Galut in Hebrew, because the Elohim have drawn their protection among their people, among their children. And this is what will happen once again. And it will be your responsibility. Each and every Jew have a responsibility to spread the Elohim message, to open your eyes and open your ears and listen to the last messenger of the Elohim, to the Mashiach, because he's already among us. Now, after all these citations, I have not much to say. Just ask yourself one question, because there are not 100. Just one single question. What if this is true? What if this is true? I hope you will open your heart, you will read your scripts, and you will be able to come and help the last Elohim messenger, the long-awaited Mashiach, to be recognized as such. Because the survival of Israel is today standing on a very, very thin wire. I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. Shalom.